What is up, fight fans? This is DJC Combat, and this is my New Year's live stream to start off the year of 2025. I'm doing my first live stream of the year, and maybe to close out this year, December 31st, I'll do I don't know if I'll have time to do my final one of the year on the 31st because I'm always like doing these New Year's gatherings and like parties, so probably not. It depends on what time of the day I do it, but that's too far ahead in the future. We're talking about right now, the beginning of 2025, and I am just very excited to get this year started. I don't know about y'all, but I cannot wait to see how this year is going to shape out. 2023 was a good year. 2024 was a great year. Um, there were some aspects of 23 that were better than 24, than other aspects of 24 that were better than 23. But 2024 has UFC 300 on its side. So that's a big bonus right there. Um, but yeah, we saw a lot of big moments, a lot of crazy finishes, a lot of stars kind of break through, like Ilya Taporia, breaking the internet by knocking out Max Holloway, ending the reign of Alexander Volkanovski, Pereira having a great year, racking up legendary iconic moments, Max Holloway's iconic moment against Gaethje. I mean, the list goes on and on. And then DDP became champion. And we also did see a lot of title changes in 2024, which is something I did predict. I did predict that 2024 would be the year of the fallen champs, which it wasn't 2022 or 2016-esque, because I feel like in 2022 and 2016, it was like one champ after the other kept losing the belt. This year, it wasn't really like that. Like, one champ lost to start the year, or two champs lost to start the year, Volk and Strickland. But then, you know, three or four champs in a row defended, like Zhang, um, Pereira, Pantoja, okay, I mentioned, okay, O'Malley, Zhang, Pereira, Pantoja, Islam, Pereira again. So four champs in a row were successful in their defenses, and then Leon lost. So that's like like five champs who defended their belts. Or four champs, but five times in a row because Pereira fought twice relatively quickly. Um, and then okay, Leon lost. That was one of the two. The two out of seven champs to lose their belts, or two out of six to lose their belts, if I'm counting correctly. And then DDP defends, so seven champs defend. And then okay, in the fall we saw Grasso, O'Malley, and yeah, we saw Grasso, O'Malley, and Pennington lose their belts. But not, it didn't feel comparable to 2016, but we still nonetheless did see a lot of titles change hands. But to close out the year of 2024, it ended with the remaining champs defending their belts, like Topuria, John Jones, and Pantoja. But great year, and again, I cannot wait to see what this year has to offer. We didn't get to see Tatiana Suarez competing in 2024, but we're going to get to see her in 2025. I don't want to jinx it, but we're going to see her, and we're going to see her in there fighting for the title. And next time we see her, it's going to be the belt around her waist. What's up, Mega Productions? Yep, I agree. I think she's tapping out Wei Lee. And the world is going to be shocked because nobody's expecting anything from Tatiana. And I agree. I think she'll dominate the fight. And people don't want to hear it, but I think that's going to happen. Yeah. And some listed that fight as like WMMA fight of the year. Which, I mean, I don't know about that. That fight was okay. It wasn't anything crazy. Yeah, it's cold in Toronto, but Yan Zhang wasn't anything crazy. It was, the first round, feeling out process in the end, and Wei Li almost chokes her out. Basically chokes her unconscious at the bell. Fight doesn't get stopped. Round two, she dominates her. The ref doesn't stop it, and then okay, Jan had one good round in the third because Whaley had an adrenaline dump from two failed finishes, and the ref being stupid and not calling off the fight when he should have. And then the rest of the fight was pretty much Whaley blanketing Yan Xiaonan. So entertainment wise, I wouldn't say the fight was all that. I mean, I might have to rewatch it though. What do I think about Armin Islam? What do I think about Duplessis Strickland too? I'm glad you asked. Well, I'm gonna start in order because Armin Islam is first. I think that's a hell of a fight, Sarukian Islam. I think it's an amazing rematch. Armin Sarukian has came a long way since the first fight. And honestly, let's be real. The last man to beat Sarukian was Islam. I might be coping, and I'm not even an Armin Sarukian fan. I was one of those toxic Oliveira fans against him at UFC 300. But honestly, I thought that loss he had to Gamrot was kind of like bullshit. I'm gonna pull up his Sherdog right now because I want to see how many fights in a row this guy could have won if he didn't get screwed over. So he won, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row before Gamrot. And then this guy should be on a 10-fight win streak. And I am going to say that he's on a 10-fight win streak. One sec. I know that's not how reality has it, but it feels like Armin Sarukian is on a 10-fight win streak since that first fight with Islam. I know he lost to Gamrot, but whatever. Close fight, kind of a fluky loss. Wouldn't happen again. And I definitely think that Sarukian has the skill set to challenge Makhachev, and the physical attributes: short, stocky, powerful, strong. But he matches the wrestling of Makhachev. So the takedowns won't be easy, and he matches the physicality because Islam is very strong, but so is Armin Sarukian. So whenever Islam does get a hold of him, it's going to make the takedowns not so easy to get. He's not really going to be able to physically bully Armin around the octagon, and Armin's flexible too. So flexibility is definitely going to help with the takedown defense. I will say Islam is a slightly better striker. I feel like he's a bit more technical. I think he's a bit more powerful um, than Armin Sarukian. But I do think I think the wrestling cancels each other out. But I think that the striking is very close, but Islam has a slight edge. So because of that, um, I'm gonna go with Islam to win. I think Makhachev will get the job done. I think it'll be a close fight, a very razor thin close fight. It'll be just as competitive as their 2019 fight, a better version of their 2019 fight because now we're seeing both men in their primes and they both have a full camp and 5 rounds to work with, which opens up a whole lot of possibilities. Islam has a bit more 5 round experience. The last time Armin went 5 rounds, he did kind of fade against Matheus Gamrot, which kind of, I guess, affected the outcome. But Armin, I'm sure, I mean, he has improved since, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna, have worked on managing his pacing and cardio for this next 5 rounder. But I'm gonna say Makhachev 48-47. It's possible he could finish Armin. But Armin's tough, man. He's tough. But I expect a great fight nonetheless. And I can't wait. And as far as Duplessis versus Sean Strickland, the rematch, that's kind of it's a tricky one to predict. I mean, most people are going with Dricus Duplessis, and Dricus is my initial pick. And most likely, I think I am going to end up picking him like as my final pick when I, do my YouTube prediction video. Um, but I feel like Sean has a good chance. I mean, it's such an even fight. They're so evenly matched. And the last fight showed that it was super close. And of all the middleweights on the roster, apart from Khamzat Chimaev, Sean has the best style to deal with DDP. He's like a sleeper bad matchup for Dricus. And what I mean by that is nobody really looks at Sean and goes, that's a bad matchup for Dricus. But if you really think deeply and look at that first fight, and you look at Strickland's style and how effective it is in almost every single fight, you'll actually kind of see what I'm talking about. That he actually is a really, really hard fight for Dricus because Dricus, best finisher in the middleweight division apart from Khamzat. Sean Strickland, the hardest guy to finish unless you're Alex Pereira. Um, Sean Strickland, it's hard to knock him out on the feet. And with Dricus's sloppy striking style, it's almost like he doesn't really have the accuracy to break through Strickland's good defense to get a knockout against him. But then even if he does catch him, Strickland has underrated durability. I think he's got a good chin. And then even grappling wise, Duplessis is dangerous on the ground, but Sean Strickland is good defensively on the ground, arguably better defensively than Adesanya on the ground. Um, a lot quicker at getting back to his feet. I mean, DDP at some point in the fight had to kind of abandon the wrestling against Strickland because it wasn't working that effectively. So I don't really think that DDP's grappling in this rematch is going to be very effective. It's going to come down to the striking, and the striking is always going to be tough for Dricus Duplessis. So I don't really see Dricus doing anything with Sean in the grappling unless he hurts Sean on the feet, like he did to Adesanya, where he rocked him standing and then he took him down, took his back, and choked him out. But then even rocking Strickland standing is going to be hard. And Sean is never out of the fight. He never loses focus. He's always locked in. So it's going to be hard to catch Sean Strickland lacking in those late rounds. So I don't know, man. It feels like I should just go with Dricus Duplessis, but Sean has such an underrated chance. And he's well coached too. Eric Nixick is a great coach, and I'm sure Strickland and his team, they're working on on a strategy to make like the perfect adjustments from that first fight. So who knows? We'll see what Eric has cooking. But I mean, Dricus is also well coached too. I mean, DDP, very tactical fighter, very smart fighter, very good at game planning for opponents, and he has plot armor. So I think DDP's plot armor at the end of the day might be the determining factor for the outcome of this fight. Like the only way Dricus ever loses is if he's fighting Khamzat beats him, plot armor or not, or if the script writers officially strip Dricus of his plot armor. But in all seriousness, close fight on paper. Um, I think I'm just gonna go with Dricus Duplessis, but Sean Strickland has upset potential. He has a chance to be one of the very first upsets we see in 2025. And I think in 2025, we're going to see a lot of upsets, but I could see a world where, it's a close fight again. It's a tough fight again for Dricus, but he can't get a finish. And if he can't finish Sean and it's a competitive fight, I mean, usually it's like to be the champ, you got to beat the champ, right? But it's possible that DDP or Sean could survive all 5 rounds again, but make the adjustments, take less damage this time, and maybe he could run away with a decision against Dricus. And I could see fans being salty about that, like, oh, this salty loudmouth actually won the rematch. And I mean, if Strickland wins, that's going to be like an even easier fight for Khamzat Chimaev. But you know what? I think Dricus has the formula, though. I feel like, okay, the first fight was tough, but he knows what he knows. He's downloaded all that info from the first fight. I mean, you could say the same about Sean, but yeah, I feel like Dricus might be well adapted this time around. But we'll see. I'm looking forward to it. Another banger regardless. But like I said, I do see 2025 being the year of upsets. Tatiana Weili, I think, is going to be one of them. Sarukian Makachev, too, could be one of them. Strickland, DDP, has all the potential in the world to be one of those upsets that we see. Okay, let me look at these other uh comments. Oh, you don't like Dricus? I saw you call him Nicholas Dupussy. That's what Adesanya called him. Armin smash Charles and he'll smash Islam. I don't know about that. I mean, he could win, but if he wins, I think it'll be a very close fight. Like, I'll be shocked if Sarukian like completely dominates Islam or chins Islam. Because I mean, Islam went toe to toe with Dustin Poirier, who's a better boxer than Sarukian, with more knockout power than Armin. better accuracy, better combos, and Islam, his chin held up just fine in that fight. I think lightweight Volk in his prime is more powerful than Arman and couldn't chin him and couldn't dominate the fight. So, but again, every fight is different. MMA math doesn't always work, and logic doesn't always apply in MMA. So it's possible, but I feel like if that were to happen, it would have to depend on Makachev having an off night. Dern versus Rebus 2, who you got? Um, that's a tricky one because I don't think either are really that good. I think both suck to be honest because Mackenzie Dern extremely one dimensional, very one dimensional, only dependent on her jujitsu. But Amanda Rebus has a good ground game, so I don't really see Rebus getting subbed in that fight, honestly. And I feel like the striking advantage, technically speaking, on a technical aspect, goes to Rebus. Now, Dern's, I guess, saving grace in this fight is I think she's got a durability advantage, and I think she's got a power advantage. Dern does hit hard, and Rebus is chinny. So maybe she could make it like a sloppy brawl and somewhere in a wild exchange. Maybe she could catch and hurt Rebus. But apart from that, I don't know. I think Amanda might take it again by like another decision, but over 5 rounds this time. But I'm not super confident because I don't even think Rebus is anywhere near as good as she was when they fought back then. And I think Dern is like slightly improved, but just hasn't elevated to the level enough to where she could be a title contender. Jamal will KO Yuri in round one. That would be crazy. I mean, it could happen. Yuri Prohaska does rely a lot on his chin. Very hittable, walks into punches. Jamal Hill has very technical, very clean boxing, a dangerous 1-2, and a dangerous lead right hook as well. And I mean, we saw Alex Pereira catch, Yuri Prohaska with that lead hook when Yuri was rushing in. But of course, Hill doesn't have Jamal Hill. Obviously, his hook isn't as good as Alex's. His right hook isn't as clean or as sharp, or as powerful as Poaton's left hook. Um, and I mean, Hill or Pereira caught Yuri from the left side rushing in both fights. Now from the right side, I don't know. Maybe it might be harder. No, I don't think I'm making sense here. Because no, Hill can still catch him with the lead right the way he caught Jimmy Crute. I take that back. But I don't know. I'm having a tough time predicting that fight because I feel like Yuri or Jamal should win the fight. But at the same time, Yuri could just, I can't say the R word, but you know what I mean. It's a word that goes with autism. He could tism his way into another victory against the technically superior fighter. Kind of the way DDP wins his fights, because with Yuri, all technique, all fundamentals just go out the window. He just goes in your face, constantly switching stances and feinting, hand trapping, hand fighting, walks into punches, takes one to give one, and then eventually he's just able to overwhelm you with that pressure. And he has a lot of power too, and when he connects, it does hurt. So I could see Jamal Hill being a victim to that Yuri Prohaska pressure, but then I could also see, Jamal Hill catching Yuri and finishing him. This fight feels like a toss-up, honestly. And Jamal had a way cleaner performance, more impressive performance against Teixeira, than he had a more impressive performance against Teixeira than Yuri did. But I know the cope of most fans will be, well, Yuri washed Glover and it wasn't the same Glover. I beg to differ. I just think Glover's style by that point has been figured out. And plus, new gen wiping out the old gen finally at 205. And yeah, stylistically, Hill is just different. Hill is more patient, more methodical. He's just more technically by the books, basically. And he's more disciplined. Whereas Yuri, being the wild card that he is, he does kind of get himself in trouble. which is why he struggled so much to beat Glover Teixeira until he subbed him like last minute. I feel like this fight would have been easier for me to predict though if this would have happened when Jamal won the vacant belt from Teixeira, and let's say Jamal didn't get injured and then he fought Yuri straight after, I think I would go with Prohaska, honestly. But now, seeing him get chinned by Alex twice and how much worse he got chinned in the rematch, and knowing how dangerous Hill is, I could see a world where Yuri's like deterred and he might come back chinny and, Hill might connect them hands and he might put him away. Rebus is chinny. She is. Dern is hot though. Yeah, I agree. And I think D. Ritter will beat Kevin Holland. But Neil Dariush, Moicano, I'm not sure who's gonna win that fight. I don't know. A lot of people are counting out Dariush, but I feel like Beneil could win because Moicano's style depends a lot around his offensive grappling, being able to take you down and then maul you on the ground and pound you, submit you. But Beneil Dariush has very good takedown defense, very good scrambling ability, and he's got good Brazilian jiu-jitsu himself. So I feel like grappling-wise, they cancel each other out. And apart from Beneil's chin issues, his striking's not that bad. Beneil has pretty solid stand-up. He's got some power of his own, good kicks. Moicano's striking is pretty good as well. Moicano has decent power, but he's not like a knockout artist. So I don't know. I don't see Moicano beating Beneil through grappling him. I feel like if he's going to win, it's got to be through striking. But I feel like Beneil could actually pull an upset here and maybe decision Moicano, potentially. But then it's also possible maybe Beneil gets made a highlight reel out of again. But yeah, the Ritter's gonna win that fight. Middleweight grapplers beat Kevin Holland. Holland's takedown defense in the middleweight division isn't as good as it is in the welterweight division. So I think he's going to get the same treatment in this fight that Brunson and Vettori gave him. And I don't know why so many people are picking Kevin Holland. I feel like it's kind of obvious that De Ritter's going to win that fight. Izzy or Amavov? I think that fight ultimately depends on Israel Adesanya. It's really up to him. And I don't know with Izzy these days, because like I picked him confidently to beat Sean Strickland after he just slayed Poatan. Then he gets, to my surprise, dog walked by Strickland for 5 rounds. And then, okay, I pick him, I give him the benefit of the doubt, and I just wrote that loss off as like a bad day in the office, an off night. I was coping, saying, Izzy's better than Strickland. He just didn't show up, right? And then I predicted him to beat DDP, Izzy. Not confidently, though. I was a little bit worried because of Dricus's, ability to finish fights, and he's durable, he's tough, always in the fight, always dangerous, and has the grappling too. So I knew there was potential for DDP to out-grapple and sub Adesanya or rock him on the feet, which both things did happen. But I assumed, okay, Israel Adesanya will come back, he'll have a better night, he'll be in better physical condition, and he'll give a better performance, which part of that prediction was true. I was right that Izzy would show up better, more locked in. And I did predict that he was going to perform better. But where I was wrong, because I said he'll perform better than the Strickland fight, but where I was wrong is I picked Izzy to beat DDP, and it did not come to fruition. It did not happen. Israel Adesanya did not win that fight. But he looked really good. It was one of the best losing performances I've seen out of a fighter. It's kind of like Namajunas on Andrade. Rose was winning until she got slammed on her head. I mean, it wasn't to that level, but it was all. I mean, it wasn't even like Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva 1 level either. Um, and I don't think Dricus's win was that big of a comeback because I'm pretty sure on the scorecards, Dricus was up 2-1 going into round 4. And round 1 was super close. But Izzy looked great. I think the Strickland loss was because he had a bad night and kind of underestimated Sean. I think the Dricus loss, he was ready. He was prepared. It was just Dricus's night. Dricus just basically outfought Adesanya, and Adesanya's will to win wasn't as strong as DDP's, I guess. So Izzy kind of checked out and sold. But if Israel Adesanya can show up on February the 1st, looking anywhere near as good as he did against Dricus, against Amavov, he should be able to beat Nasruddin because apart from the grappling and clinching, I think Israel Adesanya is better. I think he's faster than Amavov, better footwork than Amavov. Um, does he have better boxing? Amavov is pretty solid with his hands, but not Strickland level. I'm just going to say, boxing or not, all around, Izzy's a way better striker than Nasruddin Amavov by a lot. Better defensively as well. So I think he should be able to piece up Amavov, chew up the legs with those vintage Adesanya leg kicks, and leg kick and jab him to a decision if he is at his best night. But again, it's hard to say with Izzy. And also, he's been on top for so long. And I also think his game has been figured out too. Like, these guys are not afraid of Izzy anymore. That fear factor with Izzy is gone. He's no longer seen as this puzzle who's hard to figure out. The blueprint to beat Adesanya, it's out there. It's been written. Dricus followed it. Sean followed it. Or I think Sean kind of created it, not Pereira, because Pereira was losing the whole time until he got the finish. And I think Amavov could definitely take a page out of DDP and Sean's book. But the difference between DDP, Amavov and then DDP and Sean is Amavov doesn't have Strickland's level of pressure boxing defense, and Amavov doesn't have the level of Dricus du Plessis' grappling threat as well as power. I don't think Amavov has the same level of finishing ability, so it is unlikely that Nasruddin will be able to KO or rock Izzy on the feet if he's behind on the cards, and it's unlikely that he'll be able to take him down and sub him. So on paper, Adesanya should win by decision, but because I picked Israel to win his last 2 fights and he let me down, it's hard for me to confidently say Israel Adesanya will win. So right now, I don't have a prediction. I need to sit on this one and do some thinking. Oh, another missed comment. What do you think about Carol Rosa and Aline Perez? I didn't even know they were fighting. I don't know. Aline Perez will probably win and then twerk after. Armin is going to knock out Islam in round 2. We'll see. I mean, I doubt it, but anything is possible. Okay, we got one person entering the chat. Also, have you guys heard of that news? I don't know, this guy might dip, so I might be talking to myself, but have you heard of that news where Pereira, he posted on his Instagram saying, "See you soon, Australia," A lot of people seem to think that that means that Peloton, yeah, I'm talking to myself, but I'm sure people will pop in. A lot of people seem to think that Peloton is going to fight in Australia at 312, and people are getting excited. The internet's blowing up, but guys, prepare for disappointment because Zam and Zam, what's up, Zam and Zam? And I remember you. Prepare for disappointment because I don't think Alex is fighting. I heard that it was official that Peloton will be fighting at UFC 313. So that's going to be in March. So I think Alex Pereira is going to be in Sean Strickland's corner for the rematch with DDP like he was the last time they fought. But no, I don't think that fight's happening. I don't think Alex is fighting in February. That's what I meant to say. I don't think they need 3 title fights. Yeah, I like my profile pick too. Grasso popping Valentina Shevchenko in the mouth with that beautiful crisp 1-2-1-2 combo. What a bummer, that she had to lose the trilogy. And it's an even bigger bummer knowing that Grasso could have easily got away with a split decision win, and we wouldn't be in this situation where we would need a third fight. Like, if Michael Bell would have given Alexa Grasso round 4, which was like one of the closest rounds of the entire fight, because because round 1 was clear for Val, round 2 was clear for Grasso, 5 was clear for Grasso, 3 was clear for Val, 4 was like a 50-50 coin toss round. Even I flip-flopped on scoring that round. But if Michael Bell had just chosen Grasso and then didn't need to make the 5th round a 10-8, Grasso wins by split decision, and then we don't need to do this trilogy. Grasso fights somebody else and potentially could still be champ right now. So that's very unfortunate. Like, I really hate how the circumstances turned out. Like, them having a draw gave Val one more chance to beat Alexa Grasso, and she finally did it. And I hate that that's the reality. Really annoying, but whatever. I called the first fight down to a T. I told the world Grasso was going to be champ, and it happened. And now I'm going to predict that Grasso is going to be a 2-time champ. I don't think it will be this year, though. I think it will be next year. I think 2026 Alexa Grasso gets the belt back. I think by that point, either Val will have already lost again or she'll retire before another loss comes, actually. And then through that, Grasso will beat whoever else has the belt or maybe win a vacant title. It'll be like another Juliana Pena situation, I think. And speaking of Val and the whole women's flyweight division, I really hope that 2025 is the year that we see Dakota Ditcheva in the UFC. That'd be awesome. Like, I would love to see her in the octagon, like, right now. I don't want to wait. I want it now. I mean, women's flyweight is already super interesting, but imagine having Dakota on the roster. And she recently said something so interesting. She's like, I've gone through the European season. I went up and I won that. And then I stepped up and I went to the global season. And I went up and I went up and just beat up Talia Santos. Now I've got to keep that movement going. I'm 26. I don't want to sit where I am. I don't want to go down. For me, it's important that me and PFL come up with something to challenge me and I can keep progressing. That's the main thing for me. So what she said there was pretty interesting. Because Dakota is basically saying, like, yo, PFL is running out of challenges. I'm getting bored. I need something that's going to excite me. I really don't see what PFL could cook up that's going to grab Dakota's interest. And in that case, I mean, I think Dakota will still can crush some cans to defend her belt, but this could be a golden opportunity for her to try to campaign to get into the UFC octagon. And that fight with Valentina Shevchenko would be huge. It would be huge. Like, imagine if we were to see that fight by the end of the year. I know Val's got Manon problems. That's the fight that's going to happen. That's the fight we're going to see. But who knows when that fight's going to happen? Maybe, like, I have a feeling it's going to be, like, somewhere around March, maybe. So they'll probably announce that fight, like, toward the middle of this month, January. It might be like a co-main or a feature to UFC 313, or it could happen in May, maybe June. Hopefully soon enough it happens, and then maybe Val beats Manon, and then fights Dakota in December. Like, I do think Dakota should get a title shot on her UFC debut because, I mean, they gave Kai Azakura a title shot in his UFC debut. But I think this would be a bigger champ versus champ crossover, champ versus champ UFC crossover than the one that happened just recently in men's flyweight. Because Kai Azakura was like on a 1-2 fight win streak. His loss before Pantoja wasn't too like far removed. Dakota is literally undefeated. So, and I feel like Dakota versus Shevchenko has more interest than Pantoja versus Azakura. Ditcheva makes it look easy against anyone, maybe except Shevchenko. I kind of agree. I totally agree with that. Shevchenko would definitely be her hardest fight. I think the only thing that would really hurt Val in that fight is her age. She's 36 years old. Dakota's 26. And every dog has its day. We already saw Valentina Shevchenko lose to Alexa Grasso. I know she won the trilogy down the line, and she's champ again, but she can't be champ forever. Like, she's got to lose again at some point, and there's always someone out there that can beat you, and that can beat you more than once, not just beat you once and then give back the belt in the rematch like Grasso. Dakota could be like that. Dakota could be the Rose to Valentina's Joanna. You never know. Yeah, I mean, they won't release her. Um, Yeah, that's why I don't think Dakota's gonna fight in the UFC this year. I think she'll probably sign with the UFC this year, but not fight this year, if that makes sense. Like, I think it'll be a thing of she probably fights 3 or 4 times this year to defend her belt. Because people in PFL are super active. And then, like, by November, she signs with the UFC and has her debut like announced for March 2026, which I know is like far in the future, but I could see a reality where that happens. But imagine Dakota versus Shevchenko, Grasso, Natalia Silva, and who else is there? Manon. Those would be 4 really good fights and really good tests for Dakota, because those are like the 4 best strikers at women's flyweight. And I don't think Dakota's fought a good striker yet. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't even know the names of half of the people she's beaten other than Tyler Santos. But Santos is a grappler with decent striking and power, but not to the same level technically as Valentina or Natalia or Alexa or Manon. So, but I think she like easily beat the brawler in Barber and would beat the grappler and Aaron Blanchfield. She'd stuff her takedowns, piece her up. But Dakota would be an exciting addition to the UFC, and she could definitely be a future UFC champion. Maybe the UFC will have to do another trade, like how they traded Mighty Mouse for Askren, which was an L trade. Maybe they can trade someone else, but do a good trade this time. I don't know. striking wise, Dakota is special. Pure striking, Dakota beats Chev pretty easy. But Chev has exceptional kick defense. Dakota is kick heavy. Yeah, I mean, she does have the kick defense because of her Muay Thai background. And of course, Muay Thai fighters, it's hard to effectively kick them because they're like specially trained for defending body kicks, checking low kicks. And it's like ingrained in their muscle memory. So, but yeah, I do think in the striking, she probably does beat Val. Oh, I like your profile pick too, Zaman. W profile pick. Um, but I mean, we did see Grosso pretty much outstrike Valentina in the first fight, and Valentina heavily depend on her wrestling in all three fights because of the threat of Grosso striking or boxing. So even though Grosso couldn't keep the belt from Shevchenko in the rematches they had, Grosso showed something. She exposed something in Valentina. She showed that Val's not so invincible on the feet. You just need to give her a really good striker. But now the next step is not just giving her someone that could strike with her. Give her someone who could strike with her, but can also stuff her takedowns. Grosso couldn't do it, and eventually relied on a bit of a Hail Mary to catch Valentina when she spun around and gave up her back. And the opportunity didn't really present itself in the second and third fight, which she lost the third fight. So you just need to match Val up with someone who will challenge her standing but can stop takedowns. Because, of course, if Val knows you can threaten her on the feet, she's going to wrestle you. So it's all going to come down to Dakota's takedown defense ultimately. But she does train at ATT, which is a grappling heavy gym. So I think her grappling defense should be in check. And is it just me, or doesn't Dakota kind of remind you of like a prime Ioana and Jacek? The way she strikes and the way she throws her combos and how brutal she is with them. Yeah, I agree. That won't happen. Just hands wise, Dakota isn't that quick, so she's not like a boxer. Got it. Not a boxer like Grasso, but Dakota's got more variety than Grasso. Grasso mainly is just good with her hands. If you try to get Grasso to kick, her kick, I love Grasso, but her kicks suck. They're very sloppy, telegraphed. They hardly ever connect. They don't really do any damage. She's mainly good with her hands. But Valentina in that fight had an advantage with her kicks and her knees. But Dakota, she can go kick for kick with Valentina. She can go knee for knee with her. She can go elbow for elbow with her. So she's not just going to rely on one thing striking wise. She's going to have multiple tools in the striking, which I think could give Shevchenko a run for her money. So Chev is is equipped to defend against Dakota, but she won't offer much offense wise. Probably not. Yeah, Valentina, in terms of offense, she's a great counter striker. But offense, I wouldn't say her offense is that bad, but she's not really like a pressure style striker, you know? She kind of hangs on the back foot, waits for you to engage, and then the moment you try to engage, she like punishes you with a counter combo. But I don't think that's going to work on Dakota. I would agree. And honestly, I think the Weasel broke down, different fighter now, but I think he perfectly broke down how Natalia does against Val and then how she does against Grosso, because those are my exact thoughts. He said in his Champ by the End of the Year video that Natalia matches better against Shevchenko than she does Grosso, because against Alexa has a boxing heavy advantage and a lot of pressure in boxing. and arguably a grappling advantage too, along with her experience. But against Val, Val doesn't pressure. She can't box as well as Alexa Grasso. She doesn't hit as hard as Alexa Grasso. She waits on the back foot. She's kind of stiff. And then Natalia Silva has like that lateral movement, that in and out movement. She might be slightly faster than Shevchenko too, a little more loose, a little more active too. And she could potentially outscore Shevchenko on the striking numbers while she's just sitting back and waiting for that perfect counter. But Grasso would be a completely different fight, I think, personally. But Dakota against Grasso, yeah, I'm sorry, Grasso. I think she might lose that fight. Honestly, I mean, Grasso could challenge her in the boxing, but I don't think Dakota would have much problems getting her in the Muay Thai clinch. And then once she does, she's punishing her to the body. I can just perfectly visualize her grabbing up Alexa in the clinch and just kneeing her to death. Like, I think the only way Grasso really wins that fight is if Dakota throws a spinning back fist, then Grasso jumps on her back and chokes her out, like what she did to JoJo Wood. That could be a path to victory. But I think a lot of people learned from those fights with JoJo and Val, you don't spin against Grasso. But I think that. So Shev's best bet to defend is to defend and use her wide range of takedown trips, and caught kicks, body kicks, takedowns, and even double leg takedowns. Yeah, I would agree. I think the best way she's gonna win this fight against Dakota is the wrestling, pretty much. That's the way she beat Grasso, and if she's gonna beat Dakota, it's gonna be through the wrestling. Kind of like Nunes versus Duran to me. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see though how much longer Shevchenko can keep that belt, if she's gonna be able to hold it going into 2026. But it's not really like the Amanda situation here, because with Nunes, um, Amanda didn't really have competition when she retired. Like, honestly, women's bantamweight's super shallow, barely has any talent in that division. So Nunes would have just kept lapping the division if she didn't retire. However, Valentina Shevchenko has hella competition. There's a lot of girls in this division who could give her trouble and could beat her. And then plus, you got to factor in Shevchenko's age. But champs, I think, are losing in 2025. I hope Val loses. Um, I don't know if that will happen, though. I think Bilal and Weili are 100% losing their belts this year. Oh, yeah, and Juliana Pena is going to lose. So honestly, 2022, or no, 2025 might be the year of the fallen champs, like 2016 and 2019 was, actually. This pattern seems to like recur every 3 years. So yeah, I think we might see a lot of champs lose, but I know Bilal and Weili and Pena are losing. But I hope of the few upsets we see in 2025, I really hope that Juliana Pena beats Kayla. And I mean, her only hope really is if Kayla, one, has a terrible weight cut, she's super depleted, and then she goes hard early for a finish, in round one, doesn't get it, and is gassed out. And then Pena, the cardio queen, puts it on her and then is able to finish her. But the reality is Pena's going to get blanketed to a unanimous decision, like what Nunes did to her in the second fight. Dakota got great takedown defense against the cage, but she got surprised taken down and open against Jenna Bishop. Santos was too slow to take her down in the open. Yeah, Shevchenko is actually great at takedowns in the open. I mean, the Grasso fights are perfect examples of that because she kept taking down Alexa Grasso in the open with those double legs. So maybe she could actually impose her grappling if she's able to frequently shoot in the center of the octagon. That could be interesting. But I mean that's good because Grasso doesn't have good get-ups. The fact that Dakota does, that's gonna help her against Val, even if she gets taken down. Because like when Grasso was getting taken down, she like couldn't get up, or she was slow to get up. Like it wasn't like a thing of okay, she got taken down and got up quickly. It didn't affect the round for her. It's like no, she lost that round because she spent a solid period of time literally on her back against Valentina. And she was able to defend herself and, not take much damage and was able to avoid getting subbed or crucifixed, but she was losing the rounds because she couldn't get up quick enough. And control time does matter. But if Dakota's able to at least get up, even when taken down, then she should be able to win, I think. In a very, very competitive fight. But I compared Dakota to Joanna, and Joanna actually did very well against Shevchenko, better than people remember. I thought Joanna Jędrzejczyk actually did really good. I thought you know what? She posed some problems to Valentina in that fight. She actually did. Val did kind of struggle in that fight with JJ. I mean, Val won clearly, but I feel like she mainly won that fight because of the grappling. But Joanna was able to get up from a lot of takedowns, defend a lot of takedowns. And then even in the striking, I don't think Val did half bad. I don't think she did half bad in that, or sorry, I don't think Joanna did half bad. And Val was starting to slow down a little bit. And I'm just saying, if Joanna and Jędrzejczyk could have those little glimmers of success against Valentina, imagine a better version of Joanna against Valentina. That would be insane. But I mean, if Dakota's got good get-ups, good takedown defense, I predict that in the UFC she'll do well against any of the grapplers. Like Barber has a bit of wrestling she uses, it wouldn't work on her. Yeah, it wouldn't work for Jessica Andrade, who barely grapples anyway. Jazz Divisius would struggle. Aaron would want to. I mean, Aaron's takedowns are terrible. Terrible. I mean, it's so frustrating to watch. Like, she never chain wrestles and she always half asses her takedowns. And then willingly walks into punches. She sleepwalks into punches. And that wouldn't fly by against Dakota. That's a hella intriguing matchup. I can see both having tools for victory. I think who has better cardio will decide the winner. Which fight? I mentioned a few matchups. Which one is the good matchup? The Barber one, the Jazz Divisius one, because that's one I mentioned. Oh, Chef versus Dakota. Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, that's the most intriguing fight you can make for sure. I totally agree. Totally agree with that. Man, can you believe it? 1 month until UFC 312. I mean, I don't want to jinx anything because there's still time for Tatiana to pull out, but man, I mean, it's not, I don't want to say it's so close, but it feels so close at the same time. And I really think Tatiana can make it through this camp. I really do. And people pretend that Suarez has never made it through fight camp before. That's not normal for her to make it through a fight camp. She's made it through so many fight camps. She's made it through. And like this is the biggest fight of her life, and she's fought injured before too. She was injured against Montana De La Rosa and against Nina Ansaroff and didn't pull out of either of those fights. And I think this is her destiny to fight for the UFC title in 2025 at the age of 34 years old against Zhang Wei Li. It's meant to be. And again, if it's meant to be, she's not pulling out. This fight's happening. I don't think that the Lemos and Verna fights were meant to happen. I think she was always supposed to fight Zhang immediately after beating Jessica. Jessica was that former champ that was going to catapult her into the next title shot, and Lemos and Verna were high risk fights with nothing for her to gain. So, but I'm just pulling up her Tapology right now because everyone thinks she can never make it through fight camp, right? But let's look at her Tapologies. Let's look at how many fights she pulled out of in her career. Okay, Juliana Lima, that was like her UFC debut outside of Tough that she pulled out of. Okay, there's one pullout. So she's pulled out, let's see, 4 times in her UFC career, but her first pullout was 5 years apart from her second one against Roxanne Modafferi. And okay, let's see. So in 2016, or she made her MMA debut in 2014 actually, and she fought like hold on, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 straight times, I think, right? Yeah, no, 7, or this might be her. No, hold on a second, no, that was an expedition bout. Never mind. Okay, I might be miscounting her record, but wait, no, Tough was expedition. Never mind. Never mind. Hold on. 1 2 3 4. So 4-0 to start her career, right? Um okay, this makes more sense. Anyway, back on track. Okay, so she's made it to 4 straight fights in a row to start her career, not counting Tough. Because Tough, you don't go through long training camps. And then in 2017 to 2019, she fought 4 straight times, no fight cancellations, no pullout. She showed up every single time. Okay? And then the one time she pulled out was Roxanne Modafferi 5 years after she pulled out against Juliana Lima. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Okay, my phone just blacked out. So I don't know if whatever I saw, I don't know if whatever I said got cut out. But basically, I'm saying there's a 5-year gap between her first 2 career pullouts. And then she comes back against Montana De La Rosa. She shows up, full camp for that. And then the next bout was canceled, but it wasn't her fault. She had a full 3-month training camp for UFC Nashville, spent the first month and a half preparing for Verna, who Verna pulled out, by the way, not Tatiana. Jandy Roba was the one who pulled out against against Tatiana. Tatiana made it to August 5th, 2023, and she made it to February 25th, 2023. So 2 straight fights in 2023. And then, okay, 2024 was like the unlucky year. But the Verna fight, she wasn't even injured. Like, I think if they didn't cancel this fight with Jandy Roba, if she wasn't going to get the fight with Zhang Wei Li for UFC 312, I think she would have made it to December 7th. I think some behind the scenes slick stuff was pulled off to make it look like Verna pulled or Tatiana pulled out. I think they told Tatiana behind the scenes, "You're getting the Wei fight. Just stay quiet until we announce it." And then fabricated some stories saying that Tatiana had health issues, which she didn't. But the point I'm trying to prove, I know I'm yapping long here, but the point I'm trying to prove is literally Tatiana, okay, she's pulled out 4 times, but literally 8 times, out of like 8 out of 12 times in her career, Tatiana has showed up to the octagon. She showed up, or not to the octagon, because her fights outside of the UFC weren't in an octagon. They were in a cage. They were in a cage. So 4 pullouts, 8 show-ups. And I'm going to predict that February 12th is going to be the 9th time she shows up inside that cage for the world title. Anyway, because I saw a little glimpse of looking gassed by Dakota in the second round against Santos, just a little, and we know that Chev can be a cardio machine and grappling heavy fights. Yeah, I know, and I was hoping Valentina would tire out, like from all that grappling against Grasso, but no, her energy was still there. Well, actually, no, she did kind of slow down in the first Alexa fight. The first fight with Grasso, by the fourth round is when she actually got tired, and then because she got tired, she panicked, and that led to her making a mistake, throwing a spin kick in close range back against the cage, out of desperation because she was losing that round. Um, so that was the one time she did fade from grappling. She also did kind of get tired from all that grappling against Jędrzejczyk as well. But in the last 2 fights with Alexa, and then even the Tyler Santos fight, she didn't fade from all that grappling. So I agree with that. And I mean, if Dakota Disheva does fade against Val, and Val can keep pushing the pace, then Valentina Shevchenko is going to win. But I mean, Dakota did get tired, but even with her getting tired, she still managed to get Tyler Santos up on out of there. So even when tired, she's not any less dangerous. Man, but a month from now, we could be looking at Tatiana Suarez as the world champion. And if I swear to God, if she pulls out, man, I give up. I give up on Tatiana and defending her. And I'll just have to dip my head in the sand and lay low because I know that I'm going to get a lot of flack as a big Tatiana supporter. Like, haha, your girl pulled out. Also, speaking of Tatiana, before the knee injury, when she was going to the flyweight division, her move to flyweight, which was temporary in 2023, was actually supposed to be a permanent move in 2021. I remember that. She said that she was going to stay in the flyweight division as the flyweight contender. And I kind of wonder how flyweight Tatiana full time would have done back then and then how she might do right now. I mean, it might be, I think it's better for her that she went back to strawweight. I feel like that's her weight class. That's where she can like be physically dominant. That's where she can like fully impose her grappling on these people. Um yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, she was gonna fight Roxanne. So here's how the timeline got messed up because Tyler Santos replacing Tatiana. Tyler took all the opportunities that Tatiana was supposed to have. Um, Tyler Santos gets in the top 7 of women's flyweight and then gets a top 5 win against JoJo Wood, which that could have been Tatiana. Tatiana could have, fought twice in 2 months in 2021, in September and November against Roxanne and against JoJo Wood. And then she could have been the one fighting Valentina at UFC 275 in Singapore in June 2022. And who knows, there is a chance that Tatiana might have beaten Valentina to win the belt. And yeah, I got Suarez. I don't see Weili defending wrestling for 5 rounds. Me neither. I could see Tatiana either winning a dominant decision, which will surprise people, or have a dominant performance leading into a submission win. And I'm glad I'm not like the only MMA YouTuber who's actually going with Tatiana. I know the Weasel has Weili, but the Guru has Tatiana, and so does Bedtime MMA, based Bedtime MMA. So I don't feel alone in this. There's actually some non-casuals out there who look at the styles of this matchup between the two, and they realize Weili's takedown defense actually sucks. She has terrible takedown defense. Not good at all, okay? And her ability to get back to her feet is underratedly poo. It's horrible. I mean, Yan Xiaonan took her down 2 times, and I don't want to hear the excuse of, oh, well, she's a striker. She wasn't expecting it. No excuse. She got taken down 2 times. Whenever Rose Namajunas wanted to take her down, she took her down. Took her down at the end of round 2. Weili couldn't do a damn thing about it. And midway through round 4, when Weili took the back of Rose and Rose turned into her, Zhang couldn't get back to her feet. She was helpless. She was helpless. And then round 5, Rose picked up where she left off, got an easy takedown, and Zhang was helpless. She couldn't get back to her feet, and Rose held her down. Fighters like Yun Jacek and Jessica Andrade got back to their feet. Tisha Torres got back to her feet when Rose took her down. Or took them down, sorry. Because I'm referring to multiple different fighters. Even Amanda Ribas got back to her feet when Rose took her down. And Weili couldn't. So Rose is not like this top control specialist like Tatiana. So if you're not getting up against Rose, you can't convince me that she's going to be able to get up against Tatiana. Her only chance of getting back to her feet is if the ref stands them up or if the round ends. Because otherwise, she's staying grounded. And I don't think we have to worry about the ref splitting them up because Tatiana will move on the ground. She'll advance position and she will work her ground and pound. And she'll stay very active. Flyweight, I think Manon is a bad matchup for Suarez. That woman is a brick wall. Yeah, I agree. I think she'd really struggle at flyweight. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise that she got the knee injury. I mean, it's not a blessing, but it's like pre-knee injury, her motive was go to flyweight, stay at flyweight, maybe come back to strawweight a bit later, but right now I'm chasing that flyweight title. Then she gets injured. Then 2 years later, she reconsiders and goes, you know what? Actually, I'm going to go back to strawweight after I beat Montana De La Rosa. So the injury and then the time gap sort of made her reconsider, rethink her decision, her thought process. But yeah, women's flyweight, I think, yeah, Tatiana, how would she do? I think she beats Miranda Maverick pretty easily. Miranda got out wrestled by Erin Blanchfield, who doesn't have great takedowns. Oh, yeah, Ariane Lipski, she beats her easily. Ariane Lipski easily gets out wrestled in fights. And I'm pretty sure Antonina Shevchenko took her down and TKO'd her on the ground. So, easy work for Tatiana. I think Karine Silva could be a difficult matchup because of her physicality and her jiu-jitsu, but Karine Silva has terrible cardio, so I feel like Tatiana could take advantage of that. I'm going to say Tatiana wins that fight, beats Jazz Divisius, runs through Cortez, runs through Ribas, runs through Vivi Araujo, cannon fodder Vivi Araujo. beats Jessica Andrade again, beats Caitlin Chikagian. I know it's Sermonara, but she's always going to be Chikagian to me. At this point, beats Rose. I think where it gets difficult is, the top five. I think she'd struggle with Natalia Silva because she's got 92% takedown defense, way better striking, and also she has what I think is kind of the key to giving Suarez problems: active footwork, lateral movement, distance management, in and out. She doesn't stand in front of her opponent, so it will make it hard for Tatiana to time a perfect takedown, a perfect shot. Macy Barber would actually, you know what? Barber would be dangerous, but Barber got out wrestled by Andrea Lee, so never mind. Barber, bye bye Barber. But I think Blanchfield will be a tough fight because Erin has good wrestling. She does get taken down quite a bit, but I don't think Tatiana would be able to wrestle bully Erin Blanchfield in a fight like that. I feel like the wrestling would cancel each other out, and Erin is more willing to scrap and get dirty. Like, both aren't really known for good striking, but the difference is Erin is more comfortable getting in these exchanges. She's more comfortable biting down on the mouthpiece, getting hit, grinding forward, and just brawling, where Tatiana is not. So Erin could maybe outstrike her. I don't know. It's kind of a toss up. I want to say Tatiana wins, but Erin might be a bad matchup. I agree. Manon beats her, take down the fence, pieces her up. She beats Grasso again. Val showed her that to this day her wrestling hasn't gotten much better. And then Valentina, oh my gosh. I feel like in a 3-round fight, which it wouldn't be, um, Valentina would lose. She'd like lose the first 2 rounds of getting taken down and controlled, but she'd like do damage on the feet before Tatiana can get close enough to get a takedown. So the scores might be split, but then over 5 rounds, I think Valentina would win that. I feel like Tatiana would do good early, and then she'd fade, she'd gas out, and then start getting pieced up in the late rounds and lose a decision. So I'm gonna say she beats everyone um she beats everyone except for Valentina, and then I think the top five are the ones where I think she loses to, except for Barber. Nah, Silva, which Silva? Natalia? Only man, and maybe not. Are you talking about Natalia or Karine Silva? But yeah, only Manon and maybe Natalia Silva are tough. Yeah, I think so. Chev, funny enough, might be easy for Suarez. I would hope so. I would hope so. I mean, Shevchenko is takedownable. She can be taken down. She has good takedown defense, but she did get taken down by Talia Santos, and she did get controlled, and she got taken down by and controlled by Jennifer Maya. But no, I think the reason why she ended up in that position against Maya is because she went for a sloppy takedown. Yes, it was that. Every time she goes for one of these crappy takedowns, she sometimes slips over herself and gets reversed and then ends up on bottom. That's how Grasso won the 5th round against her. That's how Tyler was able to end up on top of her. That's how what was I trying to say? That's how Jennifer ended up on top of her. And it's kind of interesting. Whenever Valentina gets taken down like from a natural traditional takedown from her opponent, she's good at getting up. But when she gets taken down by accident is when she doesn't get up. Have you ever noticed that whenever she goes for a bad takedown and falls over is when her opponents are actually able to hold her down? Which is kind of interesting. And maybe it's because they land in like the perfect position to where Val can't move effectively. I don't know. Chev is stationary and is turtle from her back. she is vulnerable. So are you suggesting like Tatiana could take the neck and choke her out? But I do agree, her being stationary could actually hurt her against Tatiana. Because like I said, I feel like movement, in and out, side to side movement will disrupt the wrestling of Tatiana. But just standing in front of her flat footed, I think actually helps her wrestling. And that's why I think she's going to have a field day against Zhang Wei Li, because Zhang doesn't have great takedown defense. She has literal movement, not lateral. Well, she can be a little bit lateral, but she mainly stands in front of you, goes forward, and she brawls. She is a short range technical brawler. She needs to get close to you to do damage, to land her most damaging strikes. She cannot hurt you at a distance. And Tatiana's got long arms, long legs, she's got reach, and she's good at actually fighting from the outside and landing a lot of kicks. And if Weili sits on the outside, she's not really going to be winning. She's going to need to get close, and when she does get close, that's going to open up the takedowns of Tatiana Suarez. And that's why I do think this fight might be surprisingly easy. A lot of people are saying either it's close or Whaley just KOs her, which is not freaking happening. And it could be close, but I'm willing to go on a limb and say that Whaley is going to get dominated. Like, it's going to be a shocker. It's going to be like a Woodley versus Usman type of fight, except with a finish where, like, remember Woodley versus Usman when no one gave Usman a chance? People thought it might be a competitive fight. Maybe Usman could give him a tough fight, but Woodley should win because of his anti-wrestling and his overhand right. And then Usman went out there and completely dominated the fight. You know what I mean? Completely controlled the whole fight. It wasn't close, wasn't competitive. And other dominant title win performances that come to mind, not title performance wins that were dominant, but I mean the shocking ones, the ones that fans didn't expect. Like Eddie versus McGregor, people expected Conor to dominate that fight. Weili, Carla, people expected Carla to get dominated, but I'm talking like Garbrandt versus Cruz, for example. Dominic Cruz was a favorite. He was supposed to win that fight. Cody was supposed to be emotional and swing at air. He ended up beating Cruz at his own game and dominating the fight to win the title. And people couldn't believe it. Sean Strickland was supposed to be food for Israel Adesanya, and he ended up making food out of Israel Adesanya, and people were shocked. People were shocked and did not expect that. And people are not expecting Weili, the great Weili, to be dominated in the fight ever. And I think fans are going to be in for a rude awakening and for a shock. And you know what I think might happen after? I think fans might cope. They might say, you know what? I think if Whaley gets dominated to a decision for 5 rounds, fans are going to say, well, Whaley had an off night. In the rematch, she'll do much better. But then they'll fight again, and then it won't be any better for Whaley. And I do actually think they're going to fight twice. And Suarez is going to beat her twice, like Rose did. That's going to be my prediction. I think Tatiana is going to solidify her legacy by being the one who ended Whaley's reign for good and beat her not once but twice and beat her dominantly. And I think from there, fans are going to know how good Tatiana is and they're going to be forced to put some respect on her name. Because right now, a lot of people are not really respecting her. They're saying she's overrated, one dimensional, too inactive. Well, this is going to be her year. This is going to be the year where she fights more than once, like 2023, except she's going to have that belt and wins over Zhang. Weili might hulk around Tati in the first round with her pure athleticism and strength, but won't last long. I doubt that. I doubt that. I don't think she's throwing around Tatiana. If she tries, she's going to end up being in a sticky wrestling situation that she doesn't want to be in. And also, Tatiana herself is pretty physical and pretty strong too. And don't be surprised if Tatiana is actually stronger and overpowers her even early in the fight. But I do agree with you in the sense that whatever early storm might be there, it's not going to be sustained the entire fight because Weili, her cardio also isn't all that either. Especially in a grappling heavy fight, she gassed out from all that grappling against Rose. And imagine having to constantly defend takedowns, fight off takedown attempts from Suarez, and constantly having to scramble out of bad positions against Suarez. I could see her fading as the fight goes on and just fighting worse. Damn. Kind of choked on my water there. But yeah, I think people are going to be surprised in this fight. And who knows? Hey, maybe I'll be wrong, or maybe Tatiana wins, but it'll be a close fight, or maybe Tatiana will be losing until she, ends up getting a sub like Juliana Pena against Amanda or Grasso against Shevchenko. But I'm willing to bet Tatiana, she's got the style to dominate Wei Li. And I think it's going to happen. And I'm not going to be surprised. You, Zaman, aren't going to be surprised. True Tatiana believers are not going to be surprised. People that know Tatiana, how good she is, are not going to be surprised. But I think the casuals and all the Wei Li Glazers who gas her up to be untouchable are going to be the ones who get shocked. And no, Verna Jandiroba is not beating either. But speaking of Verna, she called out Yan Xiaonan, which I think that'd be a pretty good fight. That was a fight I was calling for. Like, before they tried to book Jandiroba versus Suarez, I was saying give Tatiana the title shot and make Yan Xiaonan versus Verna Jandiroba. And the UFC didn't listen to me. They tried to go with Jandiroba, or they try to make Jandiroba Tatiana, and then they just made Wei Li fight that baby shark girl or not Wei Li. They made Yan fight Tabitha Ricci, which that fight was pointless in my opinion. It should have been a fight between two top 5 fighters in a title elimination bout. And if that happened, I mean, that could have solidified either one's case to maybe leapfrog an inactive Tatiana Suarez. Maybe. But because they didn't do that, well, I mean, people are complaining, but Verna Jandiroba only beat Amanda Lemos. She didn't really beat anyone else warranting of like a title shot win, you know what I mean? Well, I mean that's not true. Lemos was coming off a win, it was top 3, so I wouldn't say she didn't really earn herself a title shot, so to speak, but I feel like she could have taken one more after that fight by the end of 2024, is what I'm saying. And she should take one more fight in the meantime. Yeah, I agree. Like when they tried to make Verna versus Suarez for December, I was like, what the heck is the UFC doing? Why are they making this fight? Why isn't Wei Li fighting in December? Like, and honestly, Wei Li versus Tatiana should have been at UFC 310. But because Wei Li is super inactive, because she's so inactive, instead this fight's happening in February. But yeah, I mean, speaking of UFC tripping with matchmaking, they didn't make Ankalaev versus Pereira. They instead gave Ankalaev on a 13-fight win streak, Alexander Rakic on a 2-fight losing streak, which made no sense. Rakic didn't deserve that fight, and he took a high-risk, low-reward kind of fight. And then Pereira fought Roundtree, which was a war. Great fight. Roundtree did better than people expected, but the fight shouldn't have happened. It should not have happened. That fight should not exist right now. And now people are speculating that Pereira might fight Carlos Ulberg. Ulberg's fighting Jan, but it is true they could pull Ulberg out of the Jan fight, like they pulled Suarez out of the Verna fight to give Ulberg a fight with Pereira to further protect their golden boy from Ankh, which would be so annoying if they do that. Um, and also in 2024 too, we saw so many undeserved title shots that almost like didn't make sense. Like, why did Urseg, who is ranked number 9, get a title shot over Muhammad Makayev? Um, why did he or why did he get a shot over Manal Kopp? You know what I mean? Why did Azakura get a title shot in his UFC debut? Cheeto Vera, I know why he got the rematch, but I mean it wasn't really deserving. He wasn't deserving of one because he was coming off one win. Aljo deserved the rematch, or it should have been Murad Velashvili. Yeah, and then I don't know. Juliana Pena kind of didn't deserve a title shot, but she won, and I'm happy, so I don't care. Oh, and then Roundtree. So I hope that 2025, that's gonna get cleaned up. Like I hope this year we're gonna see deserving, warranted contenders fighting for the belts this year. No more undeserved title shots in 2025. I think that was 2024's biggest flaw. What worries me though, and I mean this could be pure speculation, because I don't want to say Whaley's any less dangerous in Asia than she is, or any less dangerous in America than she is in Asia, or just outside of the States in general, but it kind of feels like she fights better away from the States. And isn't China like close to Australia or something like that? Because I'm pretty sure that's why they're making this fight for that card. Okay, it's not close to Australia. I'm an idiot. Never mind. But the two countries do have a strong relationship, actually. So, okay. I mean, I'm not entirely stupid then. So I guess there's nothing to worry about in that regards. But I mean, if these two were fighting in China, I would be so worried because I think they might let Wei Li juice up in China, or even just in Asia in general. Because in Singapore, she might have been sauced up against Joanna. I mean, maybe I'm reaching because I mean she has had finishes in the States. She finished Carla in the States. I mean, she arguably should have finished Lemos, but the ref didn't stop the fight. Oh, and she was gonna finish Jan, but the ref didn't stop it when he should have twice. So I rest my case there. And I wish there was more people on this live because I probably would have had like a lot more to say and talk about. This is called 2025 MMA discussion. Um, I haven't spoken about a big variety of topics in this live though. Oh, never mind. That's an old ass comment. Yeah, close time zone. That too. That's right. Because a lot of like the um China cards, like, I mean, no, actually, because okay, in Australia, the pay-per-views, they happen on American time, but for their time, it happens for them in the morning. But in China, they do their cards at nighttime, but they don't accommodate the American audience or the North American audience like Australia does. She got slapped around again against Yan herself though. Yeah, round 3 was not a good round for Zhang Wei Li. She was like falling over herself, getting pieced up, getting dropped. And is it just me or is Whaley's striking kind of regressing? Because she's worked so much, put so much focus in on improving her grappling. Her striking doesn't seem as sharp as it used to be. Like, her striking against Yan Xiaonan looked so far behind, but when she fought Prime Ioane and Jacek, she was competitive in the striking with her. Very competitive in the striking with her. And I don't think Yan Xiaonan is a better striker than Ioane in her prime. I mean, she might be, but I doubt it. Prime Ioane was a unit. Like, Prime Ioane was special. So, and Wei Li went toe to toe and was competitive and won most of that fight from striking. In the first fight, I mean. In the rematch, she only won, or sorry, not the rematch. Against Yan, she only won because of all that wrestling. Oh, but Zaman, did you see my I did a recent video. It's called 13 Major Predictions for MMA in 2025. So I did like 13 predictions, and I'm curious to see how many of them are gonna actually like come true. Cause in 2023 I had like a few spot on ones and then like a few terrible ones. Um and then 2024 wasn't bad. Like in 2024 I predicted that Oliveira was gonna lose his next fight stemming from the Beneil fight. I said that Armin was actually predicted in that video Armin was going to become the number one contender. But I also said he's not going to fight Makhachev in 2024 after he wins, which was correct because he beat Oliveira and he's fighting Makhachev early 2025. So that was spot on. Um, I predicted that Jones Stipe would happen. I think, or no, I predicted that'd be a double retirement, which was wrong, but Stipe retired, so it was partially right. I predicted Henry would lose again, but the only thing that was wrong was I predicted he'd retire, and he didn't retire. So, but I did have a few good ones. I had a few good predictions. Oh, and I predicted 2024 we'd see a few champs lose, which would be Volk, Leon, and Strickland, and O'Malley, which happened. I predicted all of them would lose, and they did. Yeah, you should check it out though. It's like one of my, it's like my very it's my it's like my sorry, let me reset. I got tongue tied. That's like my very recent YouTube video I did. Hold on. Okay, let's see. Actually, I have these predictions up right now on my notes on my laptop, but I could just say them right now, but I kind of want to give you a chance to watch the video if you have time. So, but I mean, I can just say them if you want. Um, but another prediction I have is I think UFC 313 is going to be a super stacked card. That's probably like going to be one of the most stacked pay-per-views of the year. And usually March is a pretty good month. I mean, UFC 299 was good. UFC 285 was good. UFC 232 was good. Um and then what other? Oh yeah, UFC 259, UFC 260. I think like the only March pay-per-views that weren't that good were like UFC um I think it was like UFC 248. That was kind of boring except for the co-main event. Beneil versus Close was a pretty good fight. But other fights on there weren't all that. Um, and then what else? Uh, Actually, UFC 272 was a good card because there was like a lot of finishes and great fights on there. So actually, no, I take that back. March is always good, except for 2020 in MMA is what I mean. All right, I'll just say it. So I think Ilya Taporia is going to defend his belt one more time in the featherweight division. Because remember when he said that he's just done at featherweight and he's just going to move up and fight Charles. He's going to vacate the belt. I do think he's going to fight in featherweight in 2025. And the opponent is going to be Volkanovski. I predict he wins again. And then he's going to move up and he's going to challenge. If Islam doesn't lose to Arman, he's going to challenge Islam Makhachev. I could say the winner of Islam Arman, but if Arman Sarukian wins, then they're going to do an immediate trilogy because Islam's been so dominant and he deserves a rematch. So he's going to get it. And so then if Topuria moves up, it's not going to be for a belt, or he's going to have to stay at 145 for the rest of the year. But I'm going to predict that Topuria and Makhachev are both going to win their next title defenses, and then they're going to fight each other in like October in Abu Dhabi. I also think that Oliveira and Max Holloway too, that's going to happen in the summer, International Fight Week. I feel like that's the perfect fight to make, with Max permanently moving back to the lightweight division. And I mean, that's like the perfect fight to compensate Oliveira for not getting a title shot in 2025 if he doesn't. Because it's Max Holloway, a superstar, a big name, BMF champion. And then whoever wins that fight could fight for the title. I also think we're going to see Diego Lopez versus Movsar Evloev too. I'm not sure if that's going to be for an interim title, but I can just see that one happening to set up the next like clear contender for the featherweight belt. And then another prediction I had listed was Dakota Ditcheva is going to sign with the UFC, but I'm not overly confident in that one, actually. She might not sign because, like you said, PFL is not going to give up their golden girl that easily unless the UFC pulls off some big negotiation. I do think Dakota will be in the UFC, though. That is in the future. Because Michael Chandler eventually crossed over. Michael Venom Page eventually crossed over. Kayla Harrison crossed over. Ben Askren came to the UFC. So Dakota will come to the UFC, but I don't think it's going to be as soon as we want it to. I think she'll come to the UFC probably within like the next 2, maybe 3 years. She might not compete in the UFC while Valentina Shevchenko is still actively competing. Like, Val might be gone by the time Dakota comes. Like, Dakota might not debut till she's like 29, 30 years old. It might take a while, but I think it's going to happen. I also predict that Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Peter Yan 2 is going to get booked as a 5-round co-main. I got to sneeze. Hold on a second. Never mind, my sneeze is not coming out, so I'll just talk through it. Hopefully I don't sneeze. But yeah, I think we're gonna see O'Malley versus Yan 2. That's gonna be a 5-round fight on a pay-per-view as a co-main or a feature fight. And then the winner of that's gonna get a shot at the title by the end of the year. I see a lot of people saying that O'Malley's just gonna get given an immediate title shot at the winner of Umar versus Merab, but I don't think that's happening. I know O'Malley's a big superstar, but people act like he's too big of a name to fight any of these contenders behind him in the division, but that's just simply not true. O'Malley can fight anybody at bantamweight, but just don't put him on a fight night. Like, Sean O'Malley could fight Corey Sandhagen, he could fight Figgy, he could fight Marlon in a trilogy, Cejudo, Song Yadong, but you just have to put him on a pay-per-view. The opponent doesn't matter, just put him on a pay-per-view because he's a pay-per-view star. But why wouldn't he fight Peter Yan? That fight makes a lot of sense. Peter Yan is on a resurgence. And I think O'Malley, that opponent, that fight, that's like the perfect fight to potentially get O'Malley or get Peter Yan back in title contention if he beats Sean O'Malley. Because Sean, number one contender, former champion, or if O'Malley wins, He beats Peter Yan twice, and he silences the robbery narrative from the first fight. He silences the robbery narrative from that first fight they had. And then, hold on, I lost my train of thought. He'll silence the robbery narrative that they had in the first fight. And who knows? He could also prove that I can beat Peter Yan in a 5-rounder, but yeah, I just can't unsee the UFC matching them together for a rematch and making it 5 rounds. It has to be 5 rounds. If it's not 5 rounds, that's just going to be criminal. Yan versus O'Malley is literally a fight that's meant to be a 5-round fight. I feel like they have unfinished business from that first fight because that one was kind of questionable for O'Malley. Yan kind of ran out of time, so I see that fight getting made. And I have a feeling if it's going to happen, it's probably going to be part of UFC 313 or maybe UFC 314. I'm hearing they're like going to go back to Miami, Florida. And last time O'Malley was in Miami, Florida, he had a stellar performance against Chito Vera. So I can't see why they wouldn't want to put him back on that card. And who I think the winner is going to fight, I think they're going to fight Umar Nurmagomedov after Umar beats Marat, because that's another prediction I have. And that's going to take place in Abu Dhabi. And I think 4 undefeated fighters will become UFC champions in 2025. That's what I think will happen. I think Umar is going to be the first undefeated fighter to succeed, get the belt. Then Tatiana, and then I think Shavkat's going to beat Bilal. Kamzat's going to beat the winner of DDP Strickland. That's gonna be 4 undefeated champs. So we're going to get 4 undefeated champions in 2025. And then I think for my 8th one, I think that we're going to see like at least 1 to 2 or 3 long reigning champions get dethroned. So the class of 2022 or the class of 2023, those champions are not safe, and everyone loses eventually. And yeah, everyone loses eventually, and I just feel like one of these 4 dominant champions right now are due for a loss. Like from Poatan, Weili, Islam, who else is there? Zhang Weili. These 4. Oh, and then Pantoja. That's like, hold on. Pereira, Islam, uh, Pantoja, Weili. Wait, no, I got 4 right. Never mind. Yeah. So with those 4 champions, I don't know. I could see them losing. I think Weili's gonna lose the belt. She hasn't lost in like 4 years, but I think it's gonna happen this year. Pereira might lose the belt to he might lose the belt to Ankalaev, I think. Um, yeah, and Weili's losing to Suarez. Pantoja, he might keep the belt, but I could see him losing in Big 25. Um, and then Islam versus Arman. That fight does have upset potential written all over it. And I actually skipped my 7th prediction. I meant to go over that one. I think 4, not 4. I think Dagestanis are going to like, go undefeated in title fights in 2025. I think that I could see Ankalaev grabbing the belt from Poatan. Um, and then I think Umar's going to win. I think Islam's going to win. And I think both Umar and Islam are going to go on to successfully defend their belts after winning at UFC 311. And even if Ank doesn't get a title shot this year, I still think we're going to see Dagestan on top in 2025. I think Pantoja is going to lose this year some way, somehow, to someone. I don't know to who, I don't know to how. I just have a weird feeling that Pantoja is going to suffer an upset loss. I feel like fans are kind of jinxing him. All the Pantoja glazing and comparing him to Mighty Mouse and putting him in all-time terms. I think that's where he might end up losing the belt. And this is a common theme with all these champions who rack up these title defenses. They get compared to like the goats of their divisions who came before them. Sterling was reigning for a while, 3 defenses, started getting compared to Cruz, and started getting regarded as like the bantamweight goat. Lost to O'Malley. Usman started getting compared to GSP, lost to Leon. Um, and then what else happened? Weidman, people thought Weidman might be like, I don't want to say the next Silva, but Weidman got a lot of glaze. And, he beat Silva twice. So, of course, he's going to get compared to him. But it turned out he wasn't as great as Anderson and then lost after like the third defense. So, and I think there's like other scenarios I'm trying to think of, but yeah, I don't know. I just feel like Pantoja's somehow going to lose the belt. Maybe Manal Kopp, if he beats Royval, might be able to get the job done this time. Or Kai Kara France, I think he's got a pretty solid chance to win. Brandon Moreno looked really good in that last fight too against Albazi. There's a chance he might be able to, beat Pantoja. I know he lost him like 3 times, but fourth time could be a charm. I mean, it took Adesanya 4 tries to finally beat Pereira. But I think that's like a hot take, though. I know like no one's gonna believe me, and I'm gonna say Pantoja losing is gonna be like one of my bold predictions of this year. I think Tatiana versus Zhang. I think that fight's gonna happen twice, and I think that's gonna create a log jam in the strawweight division because neither women are really that active. And I think they're gonna fight in February, and then I think after Tatiana beats her, they're gonna fight again, like probably in the fall, maybe, or maybe the end of the summer. And then I think that's gonna force Verna Jandiroba to either wait out a year or maybe risk her title shot taking another fight. But the reason why I think Zhang's getting a rematch is because she's got that Dana White privilege. Dana's going to want to revive the Chinese market. And plus, Weili got a rematch when she only had 1 defense, when she lost to Rose. She didn't deserve a rematch with Rose. She got smoked in the first minute, got one anyway. So why wouldn't she get one when she loses to Tatiana? And plus, I think now Weili would actually deserve a rematch because she's been champ a lot longer now, more defenses. So I do feel like it is warranted. And if Tatiana does win, we're gonna see that fight more than once. And Zhang as a competitor is gonna want to get that one back. I think Kayla's gonna. This is kind of a hot take. I mean, Kayla beating Pena is kind of an obvious pick, but my not so obvious half of this pick is Amanda Nunes comes back and we get Nunes versus Harrison this year. I'm gonna boldly say that happens. I don't know because I feel like if there's anyone Amanda would come back for, it is Kayla Harrison. I mean, at UFC 300, Nunes was literally she had her ear out to the TV and was recording herself and she was like literally waiting for Kayla to call her out. And we just saw Amanda Nunes recently on October, dancing in the gym in good shape. She tagged Dana White. Clearly, that's a sign she wants to come out of retirement and fight again. She's game to fight again. And I feel like if Kayla beats Pena, she's gonna call out Amanda Nunes, and Amanda's gonna be like, "Let's go!" And we're gonna see that fight, and that's gonna be like a huge super fight. And then my 12th prediction, I think we're going to see like a lot of major retirements this year. A lot of big names are going to retire. I think Aldo is going to retire. He's going to go back into retirement again. I just feel like after that Mario Bautista loss, I feel like that kind of hurt his motivation. And plus, he's almost 40 years old. And I think by this point, Aldo knows he doesn't have another title run in him. So I think after his next fight, he might retire. I think Dominic Cruz, I mean, I know he's retiring because he literally said his next fight is his last fight. I think Henry's going to retire again because I think he's going to lose his next fight and then retire. Um, and then what else? I think Usman might retire. If he loses his next fight, he'll retire. If Volk loses again, he'll retire. If Izzy loses to Amavov, he might retire. And again, these are big names. A lot of these guys are like fan favorites. So I think people will be sad if we do see these retirements. But I mean, it makes sense. A lot of these guys and or I didn't mention any females actually. Never mind. But a lot of the fighters I mentioned are old, like Adesanya and Usman and Volk. They're old. They're oldies. They're old heads, right? And they're on losing streaks. So if they keep losing at the age they're at right now, there's really no point in sticking around and just further damaging their legacies. Um, and then yeah, same thing with Henry Cejudo. He's old. Oh, and then Dustin Poirier. Hold on a second. Dustin Poirier also said that his next fight's gonna be his last fight. So he's gonna retire. If Gaethje gets knocked out again in his next fight, I feel like he'll definitely retire. He's been talking about it. I won't even be surprised if Shevchenko retires. She might hang up the gloves because I mean she's got nothing left to prove, and if she beats Menon Furo, she already completed her 8 rubies. Like what else is left for her? But then again, unlike Nunes, Val doesn't really have any other priorities outside the octagon. Like Nunes, the reason why she retired is because she became a mom and a husband. That doesn't make sense, but she's the man of the relationship, so I'll just call her Nina's husband, right? So I think she just wanted to focus on her family and be a family woman, right? Whereas Val doesn't have any outside distractions. So, yeah, I don't know. Val, without those outside distractions, she might want to stick around and just do it for the love of the competition, but she's old, and I could potentially see her retiring on top this year. But I hope not, because I want her to stick around for Dakota Deshiva if she potentially signs for this year or early next year. And then my final prediction is I think Jones versus Aspinall is gonna happen. Hot take, I know, because it seems like Jones will do anything but fight Tom. But I think he's gonna get the pay he wants. It's gonna happen at International Fight Week as rumored. Those rumors are gonna become a truth. They're gonna become true, I mean. And it's gonna happen. And my prediction with that is they're gonna have a heated, intense rivalry. Because I think John Jones is going to be an absolute dickhead to Tom Aspinall in the build-up because I think he's had it with Tom. And I mean, Tom didn't do anything wrong. Aspinall just wants to fight the best, which is John Jones. He wants that fight for his legacy, and he wants a chance to beat the undisputed champion. He doesn't want to become champion vacant off, the real champ retiring. So, I mean, Tom's fair for that, but Tom's been doing a bit of trolling and pushing for the fight. And we know how sensitive John Jones is, and John is the kind of guy who will look for reasons to hate you. I mean, he literally did this with Stipe Miocic. Like against Stipe, he literally picked out reasons. He grasped at straws to hate Stipe. Like Stipe said, "Bring it, bitch," in the countdown. That was something so small and so minor. And he said, "Oh, Stipe disrespected me. Now I don't like him. Now I got bad blood." And he basically lied about Stipe saying something about his kids, which I don't think Stipe said anything to that extent of what John said. So I think we're going to see a heated, intense build up to that fight, and it's going to happen. Those are my 13 predictions. But we'll see. We'll see which of the 13 come true. Will we get a 13-0 clean sweep? Doubt it. I usually never get those kind of clean sweeps, but one of them has to be right. All right, let me see. Let me read your response. And wins, I slightly favor Islam against Armin. Because, I mean, I favor Islam against Armin, too. Nah, Dakota at 2026 or Dakota 2026 at best. I hope so. I predict Suarez winning the belt. And Verna versus Whaley will happen for the interim title by the end of the year. Nah. Have more faith in Tatiana. Come on, man. Come on. Tatiana literally fought 2 times in 2023, and she fought twice in 2018. I know she fought once in 2019, but that was 9 months after her 2018 fight. And she showed up to her first 4 career fights and her first 4 UFC fights. Well, actually, no, she pulled out of her official UFC debut outside of Tough, but outside of that, 4 show ups in a row. And she has fought more than once a year before. So I believe it will happen again. And either it'll be a Weili rematch or she'll fight Verna Jandiroba. But I believe Tatiana will get a title win and a title defense this year, or she'll at least put her belt on the line, win or lose. I don't care. Yeah, Nunes is waiting for that offer. Yep. I mean, Nunes could come back for Pena. Like, if Pena beats Kayla, Pena is gonna be pushing for that fight. And you know what? Maybe Pena beating Harrison might actually entice Amanda enough to actually want to fight Pena. Like, that might actually win Nunes' respect. She'll be like, damn, she actually beat Kayla Harrison. That's a really bad matchup for Pena, and she overcame that bad style matchup and won. She's better than I thought. I might have to take that belt from her again, and then that might make the trilogy between them even bigger if it does happen. Nah, Chev is retiring. You think she's retiring? Oh, she isn't. Okay. Yeah, she probably won't. I'm not confident against that. I'm not confident in that, sorry. Um and yeah, I met Ilya against Islam. Yes. And yeah, I think Islam beats Ilya. Yes, Jones versus Aspinall is happening, and Jones will finish him in the 3rd or 5th round. Yeah, I agree. I think John Jones wins that fight. Um Yeah, a lot of people are picking Tom. I just can't do it. I can't do it, man. It's hard to pick against the greatest of all time in John Bones Jones. I don't think I've ever picked against him ever in my lifetime. Ever. Every fighter in existence I've picked against at least once or twice. No, even if there were GOATs, I've at least picked against them before. I picked Cejudo to beat Mighty Mouse, I think. I think I did. But I wasn't confident. I've picked against Valentina and Nunes and Volkanovski. You know, I've picked against Makachev. The only fighters I've never picked against were Khabib Nurmagomedov and John Jones, and it just feels like one of those things where it's like I can't pick John to lose until it happens. If he loses a fight, eventually, if John Jones ends up losing, um, if he ends up losing and then gets a rematch with the guy that beat him, I might pick that guy to beat him again. It just depends on how he would lose. Like, if Tom Aspinall completely dominates John Jones, I might pick him to win again. And also, he's the younger fighter. He'll be making more improvements. But yeah, John Jones will most likely win. And I had a dream about that fight too. Like, I think it might have been before the Stipe fight. I had a dream that John Jones completely bullied Aspinall with his wrestling and actually exposed his ground game from bottom and mauled him. And that could happen in real life. That could be like a foreshadow of what's to come in the future. You never know. But that would be crazy though if John Jones ever loses. Like, if he loses in 2025, that's going to completely break the internet. I guarantee it. Like, I think that will be just as big as Max Holloway getting KO'd for the first time, if not bigger. Oh, and you know what prediction I was wanting to add to my list? Conor McGregor coming back. But apparently, that's not happening. Because if we do see him compete again, it's going to be in boxing in September against Logan Paul in India. And Chandler's already rumored to fight Paddy Pimblett. So that sucks. I was really wanting to see McGregor come back, and I was really wanting to see Chandler get that fight with Conor. That would have been such a good fight, man. That would have been a banger, great main event, and the promos were looking good. And I wanted to see what Conor had to offer on this comeback, and now we'll never know. I hear that they want to do Shavkat versus Bilal on Tough, but honestly, don't waste time with that. Like, forget the Ultimate Fighter. Like, I don't know. I didn't even watch the last Tough season, and I don't think I'll be interested in the next one either. Jones will methodically kick the midsection, control the distance, and avoid Tom's blitzes, and eventually take him down, and then it's easy. I could see that. I could totally see that. And a lot of people are saying, oh, Tom will KO him. Stipe was outboxing him in moments, but John Jones was piecing up Stipe. And who cares if Stipe landed good shots? A lot of good strikers have landed good shots on John Jones. No one's been able to do anything with it, though. And John Jones, he's got a good chin. He's got very awkward but effective defense. And it could be effective on Aspinall. And also, John Jones could drag Aspinall into deep waters. He's got that experience going to wars, fighting over like hard 5 rounds. Whereas Aspinall, I don't think he's ever seen a third round in his life. He's only been to the second round, I'm sure. Most of his fights are super quick. But if John Jones can get through that first round, Aspinall might be in trouble. He might be in trouble. But I hope 2025 is going to be like just as exciting as 2024 and 23. Because I know sometimes like MMA will be like that, where there will be one year that's really good, and then the next one isn't as good. Like, for example, 2021 MMA was phenomenal. But to follow that, 2022 was not as good and kind of disappointing. Um, and then what else? And then I think 2016 and 2014 were kind of boring years for UFC. 2015 was good. 2018 was good. But I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I hope we can have another exciting year of MMA. I really want another exciting year with some iconic moments that have fans like oohing and ahhing. But anyway, I've been on here for 2 hours and there's really not many viewers, so I think I'm gonna hop off this live and I'll do another one some other time. But thank you for those who tapped in, and yeah, I'll see y'all in my next video that I do.